presentation a little bit about the Conservation Foundation. As I mentioned, we do have primarily been around since 1990. I will quickly let you know our board of directors and our annual meeting. We just convened, and just moments before this meeting, Dr. Brian Hazlitt is our current president, newly elected, and Chris Zelmer-Zant is our vice president or vice chair. My name is Dawn Snyder. I serve as the secretary treasurer for the foundation. Also on our board of directors is Diane Blankenship, Ann Shaner, Norb Rulin, Rod Tondro, John Helms, Robert Meese, Rich Pope, and that concludes our board of directors. So if you're interested in learning more about the foundation, feel free to give me an email or stop out at the Nature Center and learn more about it, or go to our website, woodburyparks.org. The Conservation Board, as I mentioned, is a vital force here in our area, in our region. We manage over 5,500 acres of public lands for parks and recreation. We have all sorts of different programming with nature explorations and hiking. And of course, this past year, been doing a lot more virtual programs to try to ensure everyone's safety. So the parks include Snyder Bend, Browns Lake, down by Salix. And we have also Southwood Conservation Area by Smithland and Little Sioux Park over by Correctionville. So hiking, hunting, fishing, boating, all sorts of recreation. Another strong emphasis of the foundation is stewardship on the land. And the foundation tries hard to promote conservation efforts, especially managing special landscape areas like our critical Les Hills prairies. The foundation does pay for a habitat stewardship intern for the summer months, and that's typically a college student that gets some critical background information and experience to get launched their career in the outdoor field. Also will be again this summer providing funds for 5 or 6 member crew of Conservation Corps of Iowa that will be focusing on prairie restoration here at the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center, so we can get some beautiful restoration of our lands and our native plants. So those are some important projects of the foundation. Your donations is primarily through memberships, and if you have become a member or wish to join or have already done so, we thank you. Some of those projects help support the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center's Raptor House and Live Birds of Prey, special programming and events, the Discover Forest Nature Playscape, which is a fabulous spot out here at the center, and of course our land management and conservation and the Les Hills Prairie Seminar, and among other projects. We are excited to have the Nature Center, which again was one of the keystone projects of the foundation. We just celebrated our 25th year here in October, so we're proud to still be doing all sorts of different programming as much as we can throughout the pandemic. We're doing some different outdoor things, and we'll be doing small groups in person in the coming months. So our youth programs won't look the same as they have in past summers, but we will be doing more than we did last summer, is whatever the conditions will safely allow us to do. One of those programs that you can be involved in is we're trying to get the message out for you to spend more time outdoors. And this is a project not necessarily from us. It's based off a national project, 1,000 Hours Outside, that was created by a mom, and she basically was concerned about the amount of time her kids spent in front of a screen. And here we are in front of a screen, but trying to challenge you to spend more time outdoors. And 1,000 hours might be a bit ambitious, but if you start small and look at maybe 100 hours and build on that, we hope that you can at least match your time outdoors with the time in front of a screen, whether that's a tablet or an iPhone or a smartphone or your computer or TV or whatever. Get outside. And with the Nature Center, we have some things you can download to help track your time. We're also doing a contest, not really a contest, but a challenge for you. If you complete your tracker sheet and get it to us by the end of this coming year, starting in January next year, we'll do a drawing for prizes. So more at our website, woodburyparks.org. And another special project that Carrie Sandedge, our naturalist, and Teresa Croyd are kind of initiating is our Iowa Junior Naturalist program. And this is partners with many agencies in the state. But if you have a youngster, you can have them involved in doing different programming and coming to events such as ones we offer at the Nature Center or other places around, and then they would get a patch for their efforts. So again, you can learn more about that on our website, which is newly launched and revised, woodburyparks.org. If you go to the Nature Center page, I've highlighted here, and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that you can click to download the Iowa Junior Naturalist Program form, or the 1,000 hours outside, or the 100-hour sheet, as well as many, many other things on our website. And if you're looking to contribute or to become a member online, you can go to the Contribute tab. So much more on this website. I invite you to check it out if you've not done so. Another thing that's just come up that we're excited to partner with our friends here with the Sioux City Arts Center and the Department of Natural Resources here at Stone Park is the 20 Artists, 20 Parks program. And this exhibition is currently on display at the Sioux City Arts Center, and it's beautiful. It's fabulous, and it was designed statewide to amplify the 100th anniversary of our state parks. But then the pandemic hit, so they didn't get to do a lot with that whole promotion last year. But the artists and residents and projects did continue. So you can see those beautiful works of art. And if you're a photographer and want to participate in a photography contest, there's the link to the Arts Center to go and download that and take your photos of the beautiful Stone State Park or the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center and enter to get your photos on display here at the center and also at the Art Center. Of course, we'd like you to continue to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, or subscribe to the YouTube Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center channel. And there's our website once again. So you can find us in a variety of places. And the foundation, again, helps support these efforts, as well as our main event. The Nature Calls is our main fundraiser we've been doing for 17 years. We're still working on deciding how we're going to make that happen this year. But that's another special project of the foundation, is our annual fundraiser. Again, thank you for your membership. If you'd like to become a member, you can reach out to us. We appreciate your funds. Those help us do those things that I just recently mentioned. And now to our main event. I'm excited to welcome Carrie Sandedge to our Zoom meeting and our program. She has been with us since October, and we're excited that we were able to hire another full-time naturalist to help us amplify our message here in Woodbury County and also throughout the Les Hills region. Carrie is a native of Iowa, but she is kind of a world traveler, as the program will share today. She'll be highlighting more about Nicaragua. But prior to coming here full-time with Woodbury County, she worked in some national park areas, including down in Alabama and also up in Alaska at the Denali National Park. So she has been moving around, and we're excited that she's back in Iowa. If you have not met her in person, you'll hopefully be seeing her in the near future at any program or event. And again, I encourage you to mute yourself and to turn your video off if you'd like, so that it'll help assist us with our bandwidth. And if you have any questions throughout the program, feel free to type those in the chat box. So I'm going to conclude my share and again, welcome you. My name is Dawn Snyder with the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center, Woodbury County Conservation Foundation and Board. And thank you all for joining us. We will turn it over to Carrie, our main speaker. Let her share more about her fabulous Nicaragua Peace Corps experience and anything else she wants to share about that I didn't fill in on your invitation, an introduction. So welcome, Carrie.
All right, thanks, Dawn. Thanks for the foundation for inviting me to speak today. I really enjoyed talking about my Peace Corps experience, so I'm really happy to be here today to talk about it. I was in the Peace Corps in Nicaragua from 2016 to 2018. And I served as an environmental educator. As they say, Peace Corps is the toughest job you'll ever love. And for me, that was true. It was extremely challenging, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And unfortunately, I did not get to finish my Peace Corps service because we were evacuated. But I will talk more about that towards the end of the program. So some of you might not be familiar with what the Peace Corps is. So I just wanted to touch on that just briefly. This is a big fancy definition that Peace Corps gives you, but it was founded in 1961 by JFK in order to promote world peace and friendship. And that's really what Peace Corps is all about, is promoting friendship, sharing your cultures, and helping out wherever you can. So some Peace Corps basics, it's a 27-month commitment. So you have 3 months of training, and then you'll be serving for 2 years. It's been in 142 countries, and currently Peace Corps is in 60. Due to the pandemic, all the Peace Corps volunteers were evacuated, so I'm not sure when they'll be headed back. But there's a variety of different sectors that the Peace Corps does, and it depends on the country. So there's a bunch here, but for example, Nicaragua, we had environmental education, we had health, we had small business development, and we also had teaching English. And of course, I was in the environmental sector. And then serve where you're needed. That is one of the Peace Corps mantras. So when you apply, you don't get to choose where you go. You don't get to choose what job you're going to do. Peace Corps places you somewhere based on your skills and abilities. And so they give you a job offer in a country, and you either accept it or you don't. You don't really get to negotiate. So it's all about being flexible and serving where you're needed. And so this picture here, this is my group. This is the group we started out with. So we started out with 22 volunteers and ended up with 15. So it's pretty normal to get some people who drop out. So just some basic geography where Nicaragua is. It's in Central America, between Honduras and Costa Rica. Nicaragua is the largest country in Central America, but it is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, behind Haiti. So Nicaragua has had some political issues in the past, a lot of civil war, and also has dealt with a bunch of natural disasters, which has led to the poverty. In 1972, Managua was completely destroyed by a 6.3 magnitude earthquake, and Managua to this day really hasn't recovered from that. So you can still see signs of damage from that earthquake today. So when we started out, we all flew to Houston for staging, all the volunteers. And from Houston, we flew into Managua. So here's a closer up map over here. And when we got to Managua, we were there for about 3 days doing orientation. So doing administrative stuff, meeting people, meeting the staff. And we also did our language placement test. So in Nicaragua, they speak Spanish, and for our job, we would be teaching in Spanish. So we did this language placement test, which would put us into different training groups. I had already majored in Spanish in college and studied abroad in Spain and Mexico. So my Spanish language level was pretty high. So I tested into the highest language level. And so that's how I got put into my group. We were native speakers. I was with native speakers. So we didn't have to do Spanish class like the other training groups did, which is kind of maybe be a little bit unfair. But we were in the city of Diriamba, which, if I go back to the map, was in Carazo, the state of Carazo. So not too far from Managua. And Diriamba was a fairly large city. It was about 30,000 people. And so like I said, here we are, my training group, 6 of us. And a typical day for training is we'd meet at 8 o'clock at somebody's house for language training, and we'd have a teacher. But like I said, we didn't really have Spanish class, so we did a lot of cultural stuff, learn about Nicaraguan culture, and then during the afternoon, we'd get together again and visit a museum or do a group activity. We had a lot of freedom to explore the city, explore the areas around the city. Of course, we played soccer, just walked around and hung out. And at night we went to Zumba class. So that was really fun, getting to meet some people and working out. And so we were all placed with temporary host families for 3 months. We didn't really get to choose. So I think this story is kind of fun. We all got loaded onto a van and We had no idea where we were going. They would call out our name and we'd grab our stuff and then they'd drop us off at the doorstep of some random family's house. Not random to them, but we had no idea who the family was. So they just dropped us off, left us, and there we were with our host family. So this was a really big culture shock for me, was meeting my host family, because prior to this, we had been in a really nice hotel in Managua, and this was my first taste of Nicaraguan life. So it was a big culture shock for me at the beginning. So this is, my host family's kitchen. This is me helping make some stew. And then this was our living room. A typical Nicaraguan house would be made out of brick, concrete, and a tin roof. And I had a hard time adjusting to life with this host family. I ended up having some issues with them towards the end. I come from a small family with one sibling, and I was put into a house with 11 other people, a really small house with a lot of kids. I had no privacy. There was just a lot going on in that house. So I would usually spend time with other friends and outside and exploring. But my next host family and my other site was really great. So no worries there. So we also had to do technical training, preparing for the job that we would be doing after training. And so we were science teachers, elementary science teachers. So our role was to help local elementary school teachers in the area of science. So we would co-plan lessons together with teachers and then teach the lesson together. So we didn't actually teach the class by ourselves. We were there as support for the Nicaraguan teachers. A typical Nicaraguan science class would be the teacher would write something on the whiteboard or read a paragraph from a book, and the students would sit and copy. And they wouldn't do anything interactive like experiments or any activities. So our job was to make science class more fun, more interactive, more hands-on. And so we did that by helping teachers plan lessons with activities like this and showing them how to do activities. So during training, we got paired up with a teacher and we were required to co-plan and co-teach 6 classes together. And prior to this, I had no teaching experience. I had no formal classroom experience or lesson planning. So it was a struggle, and trying to do it in a foreign language, it was even harder. It definitely took a long time, a lot of trial and error to get better at it. But like I said, that's what training was for. And then another part of our training was to do gardens and tree nurseries. Part of the Nicaraguan science curriculum was to start a school garden and a school tree nursery. So we had to learn how to do that so we could teach the Nicaraguan teachers how to do it. So we just had this big open area and we were just practicing making garden beds and planting things. So this is us learning how to plant trees. I did have a successful tree nursery. I'll show you that later. My gardening's at the school, not so great, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. We also learned how to build stoves and ovens. So this is an oven here. It's made out of bricks and an old metal barrel. And this is not cement. This is a mixture of mud and horse manure. Cement is really expensive in Nicaragua, so we had to do something more cost efficient, which ended up being horse manure and mud. But it was really, really sturdy. It worked really well. And then I have some pictures of a stove that I built. I'll show you those later, but the stove was built the same way, the same kind of horse manure mixture. And these projects weren't mandatory. These were optional. They're really popular in the communities because the stoves were really efficient. They used about 75% less firewood than a typical traditional stove would. So we had a lot of interest in those in our communities. So after about 2.5 months of training, we would get our site placement. So the Peace Corps staff, they were like watching us, observing us, and trying to figure out where we would fit in best. So we didn't get to choose the site where we would be serving for 2 years. We had no idea until this day. So this is us reading our site placements and then looking at the map and seeing where we were. I was super lucky and I got placed on the island of Ometepe, which is absolutely beautiful. I was so happy that I burst into tears as soon as I got my site placement. And then the girl next to me, she was crying because she didn't like her site placement. So, I mean, a lot of people didn't like their site, but eventually they did. But I got really lucky and had a really good one. And so after the 3 months of training, we would get sworn in as official Peace Corps volunteers. And our swearing in ceremony was at the Marriott Hotel, which was the nicest hotel in the country. And the US ambassador came and spoke. So it was a kind of a big deal. And so here's my group, my training group. There was only 4 of us left. 2 of them dropped out, which is pretty typical for training in the Peace Corps. But the night or the day after the swearing in ceremony, all of us went our separate ways and we were official volunteers. So we were on our own. We had to go to our sites by ourselves and do our job by ourselves after that. And so, like I said, I was on the island of Ometepe, which was basically 2 volcanoes connected by an isthmus or just this narrow strip of land. So this is the volcano called Concepcion, which is an active volcano. And then this volcano over here is Maderas, which is a dormant volcano, but this is the one that I lived on. And so looking at the map, the island of Ometepe was in the middle of Lake Nicaragua. So just 2 volcanoes in the middle of this lake. And so here's Managua up here. So in order to get from Managua to my site, it was about an 8-hour journey. So I didn't leave very often because it was not enjoyable. So this would be a 2-hour bus ride from Managua to Rivas. And the buses, of course, were really hot, crowded. There's usually about 100 people crammed into that bus. So after I got to Rivas, I would take a 15-minute taxi ride to the port of San Jorge. And then I would take an 1 hour and 15-minute ferry ride to the island. And this is an example of what the ferries would look like. Some of the ferries were big enough to carry cars, and these ones were typically a little bit more comfortable. But if you were unlucky and made it to the port at the wrong time, you would get stuck on this tiny little boat called a lancha. And these were not fun during the windy months because it would just rock back and forth and you'd get drenched with water because these windows are completely open. So not a very comfortable ride. So the ferry would take you to the city of Moygalpa. And from Moygalpa, I would take an 1.5-hour bus ride all the way to Altagracia. And so the buses could, be short, they could be a long ride because they just stop and pick up people all along the way. They drop people off, making hundreds of stops along the way. And then from Altagracia, I would get on another bus. And then finally, I would arrive in Balgue, my site, after about 8 hours. So if you've ever been to Central America, you'll recognize these buses. They use old American school buses, and they pimp them out and they make them as obnoxious as possible. There's no seat limit. They will put in as many people as possible. If they have to put you on the roof rack, they will do that. People will be hanging out the windows. So it's not uncommon to have 200 people inside this bus. And so this is Maderas, the volcano that I lived on. It has a lake on top of it, which I think is really cool. And I actually did hike this volcano. It was the hardest hike I've ever done. So here's me on the volcano hiking it. And so this is me at the edge of the lake. So I'd be standing about right here. So super foggy. I didn't really get to enjoy the view, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about what my life was like in Nicaragua. So life here was really slow paced, very family oriented. People would only work 4 hours a day and the rest of the day they would spend with their families, working in the house. So I really embraced this lifestyle, this really slow pace, stress-free life cycle or life process. So this is my house. This is my street. I lived with a host family that I really liked. And I had my own little casita or my own little house over here. So I had my own entrance, I had my own kitchen, own living room, my own bedroom, and then I had a bathroom that I used out back. And so my house was connected to my host family's house, so I had my privacy when I wanted, but I could also, I was right next door to my family if I wanted to be with them. Yeah. And so another one of my favorite things to do on the island was ride my bike. I bought this bicycle, which ended up being really tiny. Nicaraguans typically are fairly short, and so they didn't have bikes for women who are 6 feet tall like me. So the bike was a little uncomfortable, but it got me around where I needed it. I used it all day, every day. So I'd go to the grocery store on my bike. I would just, take it around the island for fun. And then this picture, this is a common thing I run into riding my bike is just cows in the middle of the road. So if you notice on the sides of the road, there's a lot of plantain trees or plantain plants. Agriculture was the #1 source of income on the island, and most of that came from plantains, which I think they're delicious. I had never really eaten them before living in Nicaragua, but yeah, they're really good. And then the #2 source of income on the island was tourism. Ometepe was a really popular place for backpackers and hippies. So there were a lot of people with dreadlocks, bare feet, that kind of tourist, which, I mean, it was nice having, all the restaurants and like meeting new people from all over the world. But it was also, I don't know, kind of made it kind of difficult to do my job because they're used to having so many tourists come or volunteers come and then leave and come and leave. And so it was hard to kind of gain the trust of my community because like, I'm here to stay, I'm here for 2 years. I promise I won't just come and leave and abandon you all. And so since there were so many tourists and foreigners on the island, one of my first friends was Marcia. She was from the Netherlands. So when I first got there, I didn't really know anybody. And so she kind of showed me the ropes and was a comfort when I needed to speak English every now and then. But this is us, we went avocado hunting. There's avocados all over the island, so that was really yummy. And then these are my 2 site mates, I could say. They lived in Altagracia, which was about an hour away from me. So we collaborated together on a bunch of projects. So Caroline was environmental education like me, and then Tiffany, she was a health volunteer. And so this is me and my soccer team. Peace Corps is really big on integration. So integrating into your community, making friends, the secret to success of Peace Corps volunteers integration, they would say. And so for me, I thought joining the women's soccer team would be a good way to make friends, get to know people in my community since I had played soccer basically all my life. And at first it was really fun. I loved going to practice, but then we started having games, which were at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which in Nicaragua, that means it's about 110 degrees outside. And I did not do well playing in the tropical Nicaraguan heat. So yeah, I didn't play very well and they ended up benching me towards the end of the season, which was totally fine. I was okay with it. They were there to win and I was there to make friends. So it was all good. Another big part of life in Nicaragua is laundry. They don't have washing machines, of course. So all of your laundry was done by hand. I really enjoyed doing laundry. I thought it was relaxing. I'd put on music. And then my host mom, she'd be doing laundry at the exact same time. So we'd be like shouting at each other, hey, how are you? What's up? So I just have a little video. Yeah, so my bed sheets, I hardly ever wash those, and my host mom would always get after me. She's like, "You need to wash them every week." But it's really hard. So a lot of times I would have her do it because washing bed sheets was really hard. And another big part of my life in Nicaragua were my pets. I really love cats. Anyone who knows me, they know I'm obsessed with cats. So this is Charlie. He was my family's cat before I came along, and I kind of stole him from my family. All I did was feed him, and after that, he was mine. But we kind of had like a love-hate relationship. Like, he's super cute, but he's also quite vicious. So like, just look at that evil smile. But this is how he would come in and out of my house, was through the roof. And he would always bother me when I tried to do yoga, or if I wanted to use the sink, he'd be in the sink. And if I didn't have food for him, which happened quite often because the closest place to get cat food was an hour away, he wouldn't let me leave. He would attack my feet or bite me until I gave him food. A lot of times he drew blood, so don't let that cute face fool you. And then I had another cat named Ramon, and I found Ramon on the side of the road. I heard some meowing. I was on my bike, and I was about 2 hours away on my bike, and I heard him, and I was about to go hiking on the waterfall. So I put him in my bag. We went to the top of the waterfall, came back down, and I put him in my bag on my bike, and he rode all the way back with me. So that's Ramon. And I also had a dog named Pumbaa. And Ramon and Pumbaa, like, you know, Timon and Pumbaa, they were the best of friends. They played together all the time. It was really cute to watch. And so here's Pumbaa. He has these typical island ears. All the dogs had these enormous ears on the island. So one of my favorite things to do in my free time was take Pumbaa for a walk, which was really weird by Nicaraguan standards because people don't walk their dogs there. So people would look at me really weird, like, what are you doing with your dog? But I really like to take him to the beach. He loved to swim. I'd throw sticks in the water and he'd fetch, and he could do that for hours. And then this video is of us just going through a hike on the volcano. He really liked it. He's a really good dog. Yeah. And I just love that ending, like that little smile he has. And another thing I really like to do in my free time was gardening. Like I said, Peace Corps gave us tons and tons of seeds to use for our school gardens, but we were also allowed to use them for personal use. Vegetables were really hard to find on the island because everything had to be imported or shipped in. And so vegetables only came on a truck once a week. And by the time I found out that the truck was here, all the vegetables were gone. So I had my own garden. I had squash and spinach and herbs like basil, cilantro, oregano, yeah, all sorts of things. And of course, these are radishes. But I ended up giving, you know, a lot of the stuff to my friends. But yeah, that was nice. Something to do in my free time. So this is a typical Nicaraguan meal. So for every meal, there would be rice and beans of some sort. We called it gallo pinto when they were mixed together, rice and beans. There would be some sort of plantain. So they might be fried plantains, they might be boiled plantains. So cooked in some way. And, you know, eggs were pretty easy to find. And this is the plate that I would get at a local restaurant because this is an omelet just full of vegetables. And I was always craving veggies. So this is one of my favorite dishes. And then these are called tostones, which are fried plantains with fried cheese and a little salad. So these were really yummy. The cheese in Nicaragua took a while to get used to. It had the texture of tofu and it tastes like salt. Like, it does not taste like American cheese, it just tastes like salt. So it took a while to get used to. Okay, so now let's get to my actual job. I promise I actually did work. So this is one of my schools. This was in the community that I lived in Balgue. So the school had about 6 classrooms. This is an example of what a classroom would look like. This is one of the newer ones that they built. And so since there were only 6 classrooms, preschool through 3rd grade would go for 4 hours in the morning, and then 4th grade through 6th grade would be in the afternoon for 4 hours. So kids only went to school for about 4 hours. And within those 4 hours, maybe 2 hours, they would actually be in class. The rest of the time they'd be in recess or something. So, so I would have to make all of my visuals by hand. All the worksheets and tests I would make by hand. So if I had 15 students in the class, I'd have to do 15 worksheets all by hand. So it was a lot of work preparing materials. So the kids didn't have textbooks. There'd be one textbook per class, and that would be the teachers that they would use. So there was no technology, no visuals whatsoever. So in order to show the respiratory system, I would have to draw it. So it made teaching science really hard without having anything to show them. So I had to make all these things by hand, which did take a while, but I don't know, I got really good at art. And so here's an example of one of the lessons that I would do. So there was one printer in town. So I could, print some stuff off, but I'd have to use my own money to do that. And Peace Corps doesn't really give you a whole lot of money to begin with. So I don't know, I mean, it would cost about $2 to do all of this, which, doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when you're only making $100 a month, it adds up. So they're just labeling the bones here on the wall. And another project we did was, so Moringa is a tree that has these really nutritious leaves. And so the Nicaraguan government was promoting this tree, how to plant it, and then also how to use the leaves as a nutritional supplement in their diets. So we learned how to do that. We also did some fun projects like building trash cans. My school didn't have any trash cans. They just had a big burn pile. So once a week, they would burn all the trash while we were in school, and that smell is really unpleasant. And so the smoke would fill the classrooms while we were trying to learn, which, that was a big battle I had to fight. But anyways, we built these trash cans for every class. And even afterwards, the kids made some of these trash cans by themselves at their homes. So it was nice to know that, they retained that knowledge. And we did a lot of trash pickups around the community. I promise the kids loved it. They thought it was fun. So we did these about once a month. Trash littering was a huge problem in Nicaragua, especially pop bottles. Since it's so hot, people just love to drink pop. I mean, who doesn't? It's really refreshing. But they drink a pop and then just toss it on the ground. So, I mean, after a couple of days after we did this, the ground would just be covered again. But I really like doing this because the kids set a good example for the adults who were watching. And, the kids felt really proud of what they were doing, cleaning up their community. This is the little mini school garden that I did here. There was a volunteer who was in this community before me who tried to do gardens, and she said they failed. So I didn't really try to do a big one, but we did, learn the basics. We had our little tree nursery here. And once the trees started sprouting, they took the trees home with them to plant at their own houses. And then I also really like to take the kids on field trips to, local permaculture farms or organic farms. A lot of foreigners, Americans and Europeans, have come to the island to start their own permaculture or organic farm. So I used some of my connections. All the foreigners on the island knew each other. So this girl, she was from England. So she invited us to come tour the farm, tour the garden. And the kids really liked it. I mean, this is a place that they wouldn't get a chance to visit otherwise. And they all got to take home some plants with them. And I don't know if you noticed in all my pictures, there was this woman here. This was Yamilet. She was my favorite teacher. We ended up becoming best friends. One of my closest friends there. She was a 3rd grade teacher, and I spent most of my time working with her just because she was super enthusiastic and really open to, to new ideas and projects. So we worked really well together. So I would spend every morning, teaching with her class all day. And my other community was called Las Puccias, which was very rural, very poor. So this is the one-room schoolroom, and that was for 3rd through 6th grade. And there were about 22 students between, all the grades. And we had to teach multi-grade, all the students together at one time. And Peace Corps did, train us how to do this briefly, but it was really hard. And eventually we ended up just, doing what they told us not to do, was split up the grades. So the other teacher this man right here in Nor, would teach 5th and 6th, and then I taught 3rd and 4th all at the same time. Las Cuchillas was really, really far away. It was about a 45-minute journey one way. And it was about, I think it was like 3.2 miles, so about 5 kilometers. So I would ride my bike, my teeny tiny bike, for about 15 minutes on a gravel, rocky road to the base of the volcano. And then I would ride my bike about 5 minutes up before it got too steep. And then I would walk my bike for like the 3/4 of the way. And then I would leave my bike at a person's house. There was a really cute old couple who lived on the side of the road. So I'd leave my bike there, and then I would continue walking. So it took about 45 minutes, like I said, at noon. It was really, really hot, like 100 degrees every time I went. So all of my teacher friends were like, I don't know how you do it. It's not safe for a woman, that kind of thing. And I have a little video here kind of showing the trail, or the little path that I had to take to get to the school. And this was the very first day. So the principal, she was showing me how to get there. And I remember I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I wore a dress and I wore sandals and I wanted to look really nice. And all the teachers were like, are you sure you want to wear that? Don't you want to put on some pants or some shoes? I'm like, oh, no, I'll be fine. Little did I know. So here's a little video. And then right here, we run into a coral snake, which, if you know, they're extremely, extremely venomous. So there is. But that was the only coral snake I ever saw. Now, there could have been more when I was walking, but I never actually saw them. But yes, yeah, so that was kind of terrifying. But so I would always wear shorts and like a t-shirt when I came up, but that's not appropriate teaching attire. So I would find some place here in the woods and I would change my clothes. I would keep my fingers crossed that nobody would come up on me, and no one ever did. But yeah, then I changed into my teacher clothes. I'd be drenched in sweat, and all my students would be like, are you okay? Do you need a break? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm really hot. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to show you what it looked like from the road, the path. So, I mean, just a little footpath from the road. I walked past it many times, learning how to get there. But yeah, it's a really beautiful, beautiful area. Oopsies. Really pretty view. And if you notice that this electric pole is here, but it's not in this picture, is because Las Cuchillas didn't have electricity until April of 2018. So for the majority of my time up there, they didn't have electricity. And so these are my students from Las Cuchillas. They were very, very different from my Balgüe students. They were really shy. They were really, really polite, really well behaved, really, really quiet. But they were no strangers to hard work. These were all farm kids. And if I asked them to do something like this tree nursery, they already knew how to do it, and they would do it without complaining. Like, they even had fun. They had a really good time. So yeah, here's our little tree nursery. It did really well. I think most of these trees sprouted, and we ended up planting most of them. I don't know what happened to them after I left. I would hope they're still there. But yeah, so these are my students. I had 7 of them for 3rd and 4th grade. I really struggled trying to break the ice with them. They were really shy, and I wanted to do some really fun activities, and they were just, they didn't want to. So we ended up doing a lot of fun stuff outside instead. And this is my friend Jeff. He had a nonprofit in Altagracia, and I ended up doing a lot of work with him. And for my master's project, I worked with him on my master's project. One of my favorite things to do was science camps. So during the summer vacation, I would do some science camps. This is the first one I did. I had a 3-day one in my site, and then I did another 3-day one with Caroline in Altagracia. We got these really cool tie-dye shirts that the kids made. We did some STEM activities like who can build the sturdiest spaghetti tower. This is elephant toothpaste, that fun science experiment. And then for my second science camp for the next year, we really upped our game. We made this, way more elaborate than our first camp. We raised money in order to rent buses. So we only needed $50 to rent the buses, but we ended up getting 1,000. So way more than we needed. So we had 2 4-day camps. We did 3 days, like in the classroom in their sites. And then on the 4th day, we took them on a field trip to a nature reserve. And these kids, they were even more excited to ride in the bus than to be at the nature reserve, because most of them had never really left their communities before. This was their first time, riding a private bus. But yeah, we took them to the nature preserve and we went hiking. And, this was probably a once in a lifetime experience for a lot of them, because it is owned by foreigners. And there is a entrance fee, which I think is like $5, but that's quite a bit for Nicaraguans. But this was probably one of my fondest memories, this camp here. It was a lot of fun. I also wrote a grant to build a school kitchen in Las Puccias. So I wrote a grant for $1,200. The purpose of the school kitchen was because moms had to provide the school meal. They had to cook it and then bring the meal to the kids every single day. So the government would provide rice, beans, and then this protein mix. It tasted really bad. It's just like a cornmeal type drink, but it was meant to help the kids gain weight. So the moms would have to make these in buckets and then carry them up the volcano by themselves, carrying these really heavy buckets. So the purpose of the school kitchen was that all the food would be in the kitchen. They would just have to come and cook it there, and then the kids could eat out of the kitchen. So that was the whole plan. This project was a hot mess. This is the first time I've had to run a budget, be in charge of such a huge project. It was, very stressful, but we got it done. I had a friend come help me build the stove. But this picture is kind of funny because this was the last time that I was in Las Puccias for a long time, because we were evacuated the day after this picture was taken. So I got the stove done, which was good, but there was still quite a few things that wasn't done with the kitchen, like the sink, the cabinets. So that kind of stunk. And then this picture was taken 6 months later after this one, with the finished stove. So here comes the evacuation part. This was in April of 2018. I was about a year and 6 months into my service, and these protests and riots broke out. The government was trying to change the pension system, and a lot of people found out that the president had been using their pension money for personal purposes, and so people were really angry about that. So it was April 19th, which was my birthday. I was celebrating my birthday, having a good time, and these protests turned deadly. And so we had volunteers near these cities where these were happening, and they were, witnessing all this happening. And so April 20th, the day after, nothing was happening on the island. It was very calm, very peaceful. I had no idea any of this stuff was happening in the rest of the country. And I get a call at night from my supervisor who said, pack your bags, get on the next available ferry, and you're leaving. And so she said it was temporary. So I just packed like a small suitcase. I left most of my stuff there. And I didn't get to say goodbye to anybody. I didn't get to say goodbye to my students or my friends or my teachers because I had to be on the ferry the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so all the volunteers, we were consolidated to a city called Granada. And we were there for about 3 days. And then from there, we were evacuated on buses to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, we were there for about a week. And, you know, just going through counseling and trying to figure out what was going to happen next. So they booked us on flights back to the States, and they told us we would be gone for a month and we would come back in a month. But, you know, things did not die down here in Nicaragua. And in about 2 months, about 600 people died, were killed from these riots. And the majority of them were college students. So they raided college universities. So that was a really bad deal. So, you know, 2 months turned into 3 months. And then after 3 months, we were terminated. So the protests did continue in Nicaragua for many months after that, but most of them were peaceful. And I can't really remember, you know, what was the final result of all these protests. But, you know, they wanted President Ortega to be, you know, ousted from the government, but that did not happen. But I don't want to end on a really sad note. So after I was evacuated, that meant I got to finish my master's graduate school 6 months earlier than originally planned. So my master's project was, I created a junior rangers program that Jeff's nonprofit would use because he was a park ranger and he wanted to create like a junior ranger program for Nicaraguan students. So I wrote the curriculum for that, and then I got to go back in January and February of 2019 and kind of implement this program. So we had a really good turnout. This was during their summer vacation. So we met twice a week and we did like fun hikes and activities. We went on some more field trips. Yeah, so it ended up working out really well. And I got to get some closure. So I got to go back and say goodbye to people. And I got to go back to get my stuff, which I left 2/3 of my stuff there. And I found out that all my clothes were gone, which was fine. I saw people around the village wearing my clothes, but it was okay. I could always get more clothes. It was fine. But yeah, so overall, I had a really, really good experience. I miss it. I wish I could go back, but you know, that's it. I can always go back later. But I had a really good time while I was there. So if anybody has any questions, so we can open it up for questions now. I don't know if I can see the chat. Oh, what happened to my pets? That's a good question. So I was dating somebody while I was there. We were together for 2 years, and so we kind of co-parented our pets. And so when I left my pets with him and with my host family. As of now, only Pumbaa is still alive, which is really sad, but at least Pumbaa is still alive. Do I keep in touch with other Peace Corps volunteers? We still have a group Facebook chat. Unfortunately, since I was on the island, I didn't get to interact with any of the other Peace Corps volunteers. So I was really alone and I didn't really stay really close with other people in my cohort. But yeah, we still have our Facebook group and I stay really close with my friends from Ometepe. We still, you know, talk on WhatsApp or on Facebook. What is the annual income of the people where you stayed? So the average daily income, I think people would take home, I think it was less than $1 a day. That would be typical, or maybe $1.50 a day, which is, you know, a typical salary for just a typical job. So since I was considered a teacher, we got a stipend, which would be equivalent to what a teacher would earn. And that would be about $120 a month. and I paid $80 a month in rent, so I only got $40 a month to survive on. It wasn't a lot. Did local people have gardens? Yeah, so people did have their own gardens. They had a lot of fruit trees in their backyards. This is me being naive, I thought there would be tons of bananas on the island, but there weren't. I could not find bananas anywhere. So people would have like their own banana plant in their backyards and they would eat that themselves. They wouldn't really sell them. And chickens, oh my gosh, there were chickens and pigs everywhere. Oh gosh, they were just running around everywhere. And so I didn't eat pork at all while I was there because I saw the pigs eating trash, eating diapers, eating just tons of garbage. So I would never eat pigs or pork when I was there. But yeah, most people had their own chickens and pigs.
Kari, there's another question. Were you trained on local wildlife? You mentioned the coral snake, but were there others?
So I learned all about the local wildlife and plants and trees from locals. And you know, the guy I was dating, he was really, really good at that stuff. And so when we'd go hiking, he would teach me all the trees, yeah, and all the animals also. You know, Ometepe didn't really have a huge wildlife diversity. So there were, you know, the capuchin monkeys, the howler monkeys, and then a couple of species of birds, but you really didn't see a whole lot. There were a lot of geckos there also. But yeah, coral snakes, that was really the only snake that I saw while I was there. How well did you eat on $40 a month? What did you eat? So I always dipped into my savings because I wanted to eat American food. And so I'd go to the restaurants, and because since there wasn't Wi-Fi, the only place to get Wi-Fi was at a restaurant. So I'd have to, you know, order something if I wanted to use the Wi-Fi. So I would always, you know, get some American food. But a lot of rice and beans. So rice and beans for every meal. And then we ate a lot of fish, eggs. There was spaghetti, but no spaghetti sauce. So people just use ketchup for spaghetti sauce, which I mean, I did eat it, but just really not a whole lot of diversity for food. Okay. I'd see this last one. What did you major in Spanish? Yep, so I double majored in Spanish and environmental science. I guess really Spanish really helped me prepare me for this, of course, and then my study abroad experiences, because that really taught me how to, you know, live in another culture and speak Spanish on a daily basis. Which other one did I miss? Definitely the coolest animal encounters that I ever had were the monkeys. That never got old. When I told them, the locals, that, oh, we don't have monkeys where I'm from, and they were just, you know, baffled, like, what? But no monkeys? So I know you're not supposed to get this close to the monkeys, but I did anyways, because the tourists love to feed the monkeys, and so they're habituated to humans. And so he saw me and he walked towards me. But then there were also howler monkeys, and those guys were terrifying. You never wanted to get too close to them. What am I doing now? Now I'm a naturalist for Woodbury County Conservation here at the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center. Are you going to volunteer with Peace Corps again? I would really like to, maybe in the future when I don't have to pay off all my student loans, because, you know, Peace Corps doesn't really pay you that much. And it was a lot. It was a lot of hard work. You know, I really highlighted on all the positives, but let me tell you, there were a lot of negatives. There were a lot of hard days. So I don't know. I think I kind of want to forget about some of the bad stuff before I do it again.
All right. I am not seeing any other questions. right now. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and especially Carrie Sandedge, our Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center, Woodbury County Conservation Board Naturalist, for sharing her experiences in Nicaragua. And thank you for joining us all via Zoom land. We are, again, the Woodbury County Conservation Foundation, and we coordinate and help promote different conservation projects and preservation and conservation of our fragile ecosystems and environments here in the Loess Hills and our forests and wetlands throughout Northwest Iowa. We're excited to have you join us. And if you want to learn more, woodburyparks.org, or stop out here and see us at the Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center. We'll be doing more programming as the safety and conditions allow. Right now, we're doing some things in small numbers, but again, we're getting a lot of comments in thanking you, Carrie, and I want to wish you all well. And we did record this, and we will try to get this link up on our YouTube channel. It's Dorothy Pecaut Nature Center. So if you do that, I can also send out to those of you that all registered. I have your email, so I can send that link to you if you want to share that, and look for it on our Facebook page as well.